Who did something fun over the weekend? Oh, you did? Excellent. What show were you doing
Um, was it open blanket?
now? Okay, so what'd you do?
I played guitar all the time.
Played what on the guitar? 3 different songs. Okay, cool. Excellent. On the guitar. Did you do anything or did you just watch? Don't know. You don't remember? You weren't there?
We did, our sister had to do something for her level 8 piano, and we were in.
Okay. Is she excited to graduate? No, you don't know? She's almost done. You can go out and look at them if you want. Oh, yeah. A couple of them have gotten. I was looking at them last night. We were eating dinner. I looked outside and I said to Jason, I said, a couple of them look like a meal at this point. Like it's crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I imagine she's excited. Now she knows where she's going and all that. Are you guys, do you know when you move her into college if everybody's going or don't know yet how you're going to do that? Well, it's a nice little town where she's going to be. You can go peek at them if you want, Everly. We got a few minutes. Some of them have gotten pretty big. It looks like apple pie is starting to catch up. I was real worried because she's so little, but she's caught up pretty well. So I think they're gonna be all right. Colin's like, half of them have lost their leg band though, and I've kind of given up on it. Like, just give it up. I don't even know. Yeah. It's great. You see how many leg bands we've lost? Like, I have given up. I have put them back on, and I'm like, forget it. I think when we go to box them up. Yeah. For me, look at those. Properly affect you. Well, lines. Why does she have lines around coming out? Yeah, it's like a little less. You're like, why? 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 Every couple of the couple garden, there's like a light, has to kind of. Yeah, you know the name. Have the net. It's gonna be we're gonna turn it in. Not like the little pebbles, which were just all over the place. So they're just crazy, but they're big guys. I mean, they're doing all right there. Monsters that they are. Just crazy little critters. Definitely a few of them that I look at and I'm like, you're 100% a Roo. Like, nailed, you're a Roo. The others, I'm like, so sure what I'm dealing with. And I think by next week, they should all be old enough that vent sexing should be flawless. At least I hope. Like at this point, it could be questionable on some. We could still mislabel some of them, but I think by next week they'll be old enough that we should be able to do that. So yes, I have I've got labels for their little go home boxes where we'll do what type they are and whether they're a rooster or a hen, and we'll slap it on the box. So when people take them home, they know who is who, or when I take them back to that lady, I know I can tell her who is who as if she cares. They're just going to join her flock of goodness knows how many quail, but hey, it's all good. It's all good. Quails, quails, quails. Everywhere we go. What'd you do this weekend? Anything fun?
No, not really.
No?
Next weekend, more interesting.
What you got next weekend?
Oklahoma,
Where in Lanier or
Texas.
Texas? You went to Texas? Where?
Just outside of Houston.
Okay, all right. That sounds like fun. Drew, did you take your prednisone?
Um,
It's on the stairs. Did you see it? Well, that sounds like fun. Very cool. Excellent. So it's a lake. You flying? Okay, I was gonna say it's a really long drive. Having gone to Waco, it's a very long drive, but yeah.
We went down to Fort Myers Beach.
Okay, yes. That you can drive, yeah, for sure. Texas is a drive. So is this like your big event towards the end of your season, or is this the beginning of your season?
Starting into long course season,
Okay.
but this is open water swim, so it's the end of that season.
Okay, it's the end of open. Really?
Yeah.
So open water season is when it's still very cold.
So open water season kind of starts in like the end of the summer, like just a school starting back. And
Oh,
we do have a few meets kind of over the winter.
okay.
The last one we did 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
Water was chilly.
Cold. Yeah. But when you're moving, I mean, does that help?
No, we don't.
It really got worse. Oh man.
Teammates was in the ambulance for an hour.
Oh gosh, trying to get warmed up. That sounds miserable. Oh my goodness. Wow.
In about 62 to 65 degree water.
Oh, that's real cold. That's real cold. I've always been grateful that they did inside sports because I was like, I never had to sit out in the rain or the cold or the heat or the whatever. Like it was always just, it didn't matter. Now, a lot of the meets occur in January, February when we get ice and snow, and they don't cancel very often. So we've had to drive like down to the airport area to the Congress Center in the freaking ice and snow, which is never something I prefer to do, but
For the part it's inside, what we do is cancel for weather sometimes.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
We have a 50-meter pool
Okay.
at one of Diamond's locations, but it's in this it's probably a sprung building. It's the brand, but it's basically 2 layers of fabric with a metal frame.
Interesting. Oh, those are like the ones that they put up in the arenas and stuff. I've seen those. Yeah, that's
So
cool.
it's like an indoor building.
Yeah.
But we can't swim during bad weather.
Yeah.
There's lightning within.
Yeah, you can't swim if there's still lightning. Yeah.
Oh, I've heard because we were at a pool in Florida 2 years ago, and they were like, "Oh yeah, as long as you're in the pool, you're safe. On the deck, not so much."
I don't think I'd want to be in either place if there's lightning. So
At that meet, they had a really nice outdoor pool and a really nice indoor pool. But we were swimming in the indoor pool.
Yeah.
The outdoor pool is the warm-up cool down.
Okay.
But we had lightning and thunder all
Oh.
day of the meet, so we had to swim a race, stop, let everyone swim out, and then go to the next race.
Oh my.
So it was 5 minutes.
Hey, Evan. That's wild.
They made sure to remind everyone, no diving, no pushing anybody under the lane lines.
Oh.
It was chaos.
Oh my. Well, when do you leave?
Right.
All right. I'm sure it'll be awesome. Hey, are we ready? Everybody's here. We're ready. Oh, I feel like I could stretch. What have you got? Who's squeaky? Oh, is it a sloth? Very cute. I feel like I could stretch for a year, which is appropriate since we're doing muscles and skeletal system today, but I've just been stiff for like the past couple days. All right, people, are we ready? Yes, we're good? All right. So we're doing skeletal muscle and integumentary systems today. So we're at the end, we're going to play a bit of a game with my friend here. All right. So we'll see. We'll see. All right. So we're going to start by talking about our skeletal system. So our skeletal system is going to support the body, protect our internal organs, assist in movement, store minerals, and a certain type of cell is going to be made within our bones. Do you know what kind of cell is made within your bones? No? So those are your blood cells are actually made inside your bones. Looking at this skeleton or this friend here, where on the skeleton is an area that is intended for protecting internal organs, do you think? What do you think's the purpose? Where are you pointing, but use words.
Below that.
The bit below the head. This bit? It's a rib cage, right? Absolutely. Because what's in here? Your heart and your lungs, right? So that's the whole purpose of your rib cage is to support your heart and to protect your heart and lungs. You don't really need that to move much, do you? I mean, if your rib cage was gone, you could still, as long as you had your shoulder girdle here and you could still move your arms, because that's all attached kind of, well, these are sort of attached to the top of your rib cage, but if this was attached to your spine somehow, you'd be able to move. But the whole purpose here is to protect your heart and lungs. Right, very good. Also, down in your pelvic girdle, this area in here is good for protecting reproductive organs too, the internal ones. So very good. All right, so how many bones are in an adult body? How many? Over 200. If I know the exact number, you're real close. So 206. Yep. And then we have two types of systems within this big skeletal system. We have the first system that is going to support the central axis of the body. So it's your skull and your spine, your vertebral column. Do we know what we call that skeleton? So we call that your axial skeleton. And then everything else, your bones of your arms and legs, pelvis and shoulder. Do you know what we call that part of the system? So we call that appendicular. And here's why. What are arms and legs? They're called appendages, right? So if it's part of your appendages, it's your appendicular skeleton. Whereas your rib cage, your head, your skull, your spine, that's all your axial, right? Very good. Your arms, legs, pelvis, shoulders, that's all appendicular. So your bones are a solid network of living cells and protein fibers surrounded by deposits of calcium salts. So this is interesting because usually, your body's all living cells, lots of living cells, right? Inside your body. Now we do have some that are not so much alive, like the keratin in our hair, right? It doesn't work to cut your hair, was it, right? There's no nerves in there, and that's not really alive anymore, right? It's being formed by living cells, but it's not alive. But your bones, we see skeletons, and when you see a skeleton, it's no longer alive, but it was. All of these bones have a blood supply, right? They get oxygenated blood, and just like any other organ or part of your body. So they've got nerves and blood vessels that run through compact bone in channels. So you got different types of bones. If you look here, you get an idea. This part down up in here in the middle, they're going to call that compact bone, and it's really tight. And if you look at that graphic, you'll see it's very solid. And then look right here. You see how it's kind of full of little holes. It looks almost like a sponge. So it's called spongy bone. And that's at the ends of your bones. And that actually is good for impact, right? And it's got other purposes as well. But it's very strong and it's lightweight. And that's your inner layer of the bone, and it's towards the ends of your bones. And you also have, like where bones grow, you've got growth plates on the ends here. So as you're still growing, those are the areas of your bone that lengthen, right? All right, so long bones. Where would be long bones, do you suppose? So that would be these guys, these guys, these guys, and those guys. They're long bones, right? Are surrounded by a tough layer of connective tissue. You know what it is? It wraps the bone, packages it up, almost like it's vacuum sealed in it. So this is called periosteum, and it's like a membrane that surrounds those long bones. And if you can sometimes see it on, you might be able to see it on the chicken wings we're working with in lab today. You can definitely see it on a drumstick if you're working with a drumstick while it's still raw before it's cooked. You can really see the membrane. And you can see it in some other, like if you were to get maybe like a beef shank or something like that, you can sometimes see it there too. And then there's a type of connective tissue that's soft and strong, and it's flexible, and it supports the body. You're going to find it in your joints. You're going to find it in certain places of your body where you don't have bone, but you still have structure. And this is the substance that I said is the same reason that we don't use the term vertebrate or invertebrate. What substance do you think we're talking about? It's going to be in your nose. It's going to be in your ears. What are you thinking? It's going to be your cartilage, right? So you've got cartilage, like if you touch your ears, you can feel it. It's flexible, right? But it's firm. It's not like your cheek, right? Your cheek is just tissue, fat tissue, some muscle, right? Skin, but your ears feel different. Tip of your nose too, right? You've got bone up here in your nose. That's why you can break your nose, right? Because you've got bone up here. If you do like this, you can feel where the bone ends and the cartilage starts. And you've got cartilage like here in your ribs. You can see where they're showing the cartilage, but you've also got cartilage at the end of all of your bones where your joints are. You've got a lot of cartilage in your knee. That's a common injury. People will tear the cartilage in their knee. My mom's done that twice. It's really painful, actually, if you do that. But it makes a nice cushion. It's a pillow. It's also slippery. It's flexible. It has all kinds of purposes. So your bones are hollow in the middle and they're filled with marrow, right? And yellow marrow is one type and it has mostly fat in it. And then red marrow is where your blood cells are produced. So if you look at a bone up close, not on this model here, but a real bone up close, you'll sometimes see these little holes that look like little tunnels coming in and out of the bone. And that's where blood vessels go into the bone to collect the new blood cells that are being made, right? Or come out of the bone to take waste products out. Well, they go out of the bone to bring the blood cells out. They go in to get them, right? And out to bring them out. So that's where your red blood cells and stuff are produced, all your blood cells in your, most of them, in your bones. So that's really, really important. So if you, have you heard of like bone marrow transplants? You ever heard of that? So sometimes people that have certain diseases of their blood, and they're having trouble, their body's having trouble producing the right types of blood cells, they can take bone marrow from one person if they have the right blood type and the right genetic makeup, and they can donate it to another person. And usually they will take it like out of the hip bone because that's a really big bone, but they'll go in there and they'll drill. It's pretty painful for the person who's donating because they'll go in and they'll drill in to the bone and they'll remove some of that marrow so that they can grow those cells and grow that marrow and give it to another person, right? So we have different kinds of bone cells. And then we have a whole process where our bone changes from, we have parts of our body that change from cartilage to bone. And like, here's a good example. Have you ever noticed that babies do not have kneecaps? You notice that? Your patella, this little guy here, does not exist in babies. It grows over time. It starts as cartilage and then it hardens and turns into bone. Also, babies in general, their skeletons are a little more flexible. They're not as bony. They're not as hard. So we have areas of our body that start with a lot of cartilage and become bone. Do you know what that process is called when it goes from cartilage to bone? Anybody know? So this is ossification. All right. So anytime you see ossi, it has to do with bone. Thank you. Get died on me. Does that time to time. So OSS, os or osteo, that has to do with bone. Does anybody know what an ossuary is? So an ossuary is a place where the bones of the dead are displayed. So it's a type of cemetery in a way, where they will take the bones of deceased people and they will display them. Sometimes they just sort of stack them. Sometimes they're in boxes or containers like caskets. And sometimes they're displayed very artistically. So there's a place in Slovakia, yeah, called the Sedlak Ossuary that I visited, and it's a huge church, but it is not used as a church anymore. It's just used as an ossuary. So when you go in, there is a massive chandelier as big as this room, and the chandelier is made of all human bones. It's wild to look at. It's actually quite beautiful, but it's crazy because you're like, that's a lot of people. There's like thousands of people in this room, right? So that's where anytime you see OSS or OSTEO, you're dealing with bone. So osteoblasts are, these are these guys right here. So these are a type of bone cell that are going to secrete mineral deposits that replace cartilage in developing bones. So that's part of the ossification process, right? They're gonna give secrete minerals that's going to mineralize the cartilage. So it goes from being flexible like your nose to being bone like your skull, right? And then osteocytes, these are these guys right here. They help maintain minerals in bone tissue and continue to strengthen and grow bone. And then osteoclasts, which are these cells, they break down minerals in bone. So if you have too many minerals in your bones, you get too much of something, they'll help break it down. So that's the purpose of those. So then we have our joints. All right, so joints contain connective tissue that hold bone together, and they permit bones to move without damaging each other. And you have a couple of different types of joints. You have an immovable joint, and a great location for that would be your cranium and your sacrum. All right, now you can't really see it from where you're sitting, but you can come up later and get a good look. But on the top of the skull are these little jagged lines called sutures. And this is really important. So when a baby is born, it has to fit through its mom's pelvis, right? And come all the way out. So because of that, the bones in a baby's head are not fully grown and they're not joined together. They're flexible and they move. That allows the baby's head to be squished and compressed into a not quite such a large round shape, but more like an oblong shape, so that a baby's head can be delivered. And you ever seen like a baby with a soft spot? Like right here on the top of their head, there's a little, it's almost like a triangular shaped spot where if you touch it, there's no bone there at all. None. There's just like membrane and their brains underneath, skin membrane and their brain underneath, right? There's no bone there. Eventually all those bones they'll come together like this and they interlock and then they make a joint. It's still a joint because there's this bone here, this bone here, this bone back here, and they all still have to come together. So that is the purpose of these sutures. So that's an immovable joint. Another one's your sacrum. So that's right here at the back, right here. This is a joint. All these are separate bones, but they're kind of fused and they don't move separately, right? Your sacrum kind of stays as it is. Then you have semi-movable. So your vertebra is a good example. You can turn left, you can turn right, you can bend forward, you can bend back, but you can't like bend all the way back, right? Like you can't bend your back. Some people can. Some people are really flexible. But there's also a certain stopping point. If you look, you can see all these little projections here that come off, these processes that come off. If you were to bend that back, sooner or later, this one's going to touch this one, right? And then that's as far as it can go. Can't go any further than that. So it's semi-movable. And then you have your freely movable ones. So these are your ball and socket, which you'll find like here and here, right? And your hinge joints, which you'll find in your knees and elbows. These are hinges. And then pivots, this one up here, where you can turn your head. And saddle joints, which are like in your fingers. So here's where you find freely movable joints. Pivot joint right there, where you can turn, right? You can turn your head. Saddle joints in your fingers. They do like so right here, right? Saddle joints. And you can kind of see how you can sort of circle your thumb around. Right. So you can see the shape of that joint right there, right? You got a plain joint from right here underneath your tibia on the top of your foot. You can kind of slide that, right? It slides a little. That's it. That's a plain joint. And then you got hinge joints in your elbows and your knees. They work just like a door, right? Open, close like a door. And then you've got condyloid joints. Those are like in your wrist. You got some in there. And then you've also got your ball and socket, which is like your shoulder and your picture right there. There's a ball, there's a socket, and it fits in and it circles around in there, right? So what holds bone to bone? What type of connective tissue connects one bone to another bone? Do you know? So those are ligaments. Ligaments connect bone to bone. Now, if you look at a picture, you see that ligament has torn. So a ligament can snap. A ligament can partially tear. A ligament can be damaged. Here's the thing. If you break your bone, like let's say you break your leg, okay, you break it down here, snap, all right? Will that bone grow back together over time if it's properly set and allowed to be still? It will, right? Because those little osteoclasts are going to come in, right? And it's going to grow new bone, right? If you break your ligament, you're done. It doesn't regenerate. It doesn't grow again. So if you have a really bad sprain, you've lost the tissue that connects bone to bone. And all that is supporting it then are whatever ligaments didn't get torn. And there are lots of ligaments. It's not just like one for every joint. And muscles. So like I had a really bad sprain when I was about 15 and I completely snapped one ligament on the outside of my right ankle and I tore another. And so that is just not as stable. And it never will be as stable as it was beforehand. I'll be walking along sometimes and I'll just be on the ground suddenly. It's like it goes, whoop, it rolls and I go with it. So my muscles have to compensate because I lost that ligament. Anybody have a sprain before? Yeah, it hurts, doesn't it? It's really painful. Yeah, really, really painful. And it's done. That ligament is broken, it's done. So let's talk about fractures. Fractures are when you break a bone.
Or broken bone. It is a medical condition characterized by a partial or complete break in the continuity of the bone. Most human bones are strong and can generally withstand strong impact or forces. However, bones break when the pressure or force applied to them is more than what they can normally withstand, or if there is something wrong with them. Bones are the skeleton of the body that allows us to interact with our environment. They act as attachment points for muscles, which allow for running, jumping, sitting, kneeling, grasping, and lifting. As we age, the bones become brittle, and the force they can handle or withstand reduces. This increases the risk of fracture. Immediate medical care is needed after a bone is fractured, as serious fractures can have severe complications if not treated immediately. Complications include damage to the blood vessels and infections of the bone or surrounding tissue. Types of fracture. Traumatic fracture. This type of fracture is sustained from a trauma, such as fractures due to a fall, accident, fight, etc. Pathologic fracture. This type is as a result of an underlying condition or disease that has already weakened the bone, such as cancer or osteoporosis. Closed fracture. It is also a simple fracture. In a closed fracture, the broken bone does not break the underlying skin. Open fracture. In this type, the broken bone tears the skin and may thus expose the bone to contamination. With an open fracture, there is a high risk of infection. Transverse fracture. A fracture where the break is in a straight line across the bone. Spiral fracture. A fracture where at least one part of the bone has been twisted. Oblique fracture. A fracture where the break is diagonal across the bone. Impacted fracture. A fracture where one fragment of bone goes into another. Bone fragments are driven into each other. Avulsion fracture. A fracture where a fragment of bone is separated or pulled off by a ligament or tendon. Complete fracture. A fracture in which the bone breaks completely. Types of complete fractures are comminuted fracture. Bone fragments breaks into 3 or more pieces. Single fracture. Bone fragment breaks in one place into 2 pieces. Non-displaced fracture. Bone fragments breaks into pieces and stay in their normal alignment. Displaced fracture. Bone fragment breaks into pieces that shift off their normal alignment. Incomplete fracture. The bone doesn't break completely. Incomplete fractures are more common in children whose bone are softer and more elastic. Types of incomplete fractures are green stick fracture. The bone partly fractures on one side, while the rest of the bone is bent. Hairline fracture. A partial fracture of the bone, usually in a thin crack. Torus or buckle fracture. The bone is broken on one side, and a bump or raised buckle grows on the other side. Causes. Falls. Direct blows or strikes to the body. Injuries from sports. Osteoporosis. Repetitive forces caused by running. Automobile accidents. Risk factors may include being old, smoking, alcoholism, use of corticosteroids, being physically inactive. Symptoms. Intense pain in the site of the injury. Swelling, bruising, and redness in the injured area. Deformity in the injured area. Difficulty moving or supporting the weight with the affected area. Diagnosis and treatment. The doctor will ask about symptoms, examine the injury, and look for other injuries that may have occurred. The American Academy of Orthopedic Surgeons provides that x-rays are the most common method of diagnosing a fracture. They help in visualizing the bone and revealing breaks and other signs of damage, as well as in determining the location and type of the fracture. In cases where x-ray alone is insufficient, CT scan or MRI may be used. Treatment. Treatment options depend on the type and location of the fracture. The first goal of treatment is to try to put the broken pieces back into their proper position and stabilize them as they heal. Pieces of broken bone should be kept immobile until they are mended. A cast may be used to stabilize the broken bone. The cast may be made of fiber or glass, and it will help stabilize the injured area and keep broken pieces compact until they heal. Complex injuries may require surgery.
All right.
Thanks for watching.
So some people will sometimes say, I didn't really break my bone, I fractured it. It's the same thing. People try to think of fracture as being like maybe where there's a crack, but it didn't come apart. But it's all a fracture. That's the term. Fracture just means broken or to break, right? So you can have a pathological fracture, which they say is related to disease or an underlying cause. You can have a pathological fracture that is a compound fracture or one of the other types they said. So you can be both pathological and traumatic, and then one of the other types, right? So this one talks about healing, and we'll skip that one, but that just talks about how you got to put them in a cast and why you need to put them in a cast. All right, so let's talk about the muscular system. Oh, that's not scary at all. Yeah. If we were stripped down to our muscles, we would look pretty creepy, wouldn't we? So we have 3 types of muscle tissue. So what do you call the kind of tissue that attaches to bones and it moves your bones, moves your joints, and it's voluntary, you control it? It attaches to your skeleton, so it is skeletal muscle. And skeletal muscle looks like the center image here. It's what we call striated. You can see it has all those little lines on it. It's what we call striated, and it's very tightly packed. What do you call the kind of muscle that controls your breathing and your digestive system? And it's not voluntary. You don't control the movements of your digestive system. It happens all on its own. That is smooth muscle. And if you look, you'll see why it's called smooth. Do you see striations in that muscle? Are there little red lines up there? See those little red lines? That's striated muscle. That is smooth muscle. So it has no striations. So if you look at it under a microscope, you can tell it's muscle tissue if you know what you're looking for, and you can tell it's smooth muscle really easily if it doesn't have those striations. And then what's the last kind of muscle, do you suppose? You've got your skeletal muscle that you control. You've got your smooth muscle that you don't control. The last one, it's a very important muscle. This is your cardiac muscle. It's found only in your heart. It's involuntary. You don't control it. And you see that it is striated, but you see how it's structured differently than skeletal muscle? See how those fibers are aligned? It's different. So those are your 3 types: cardiac, skeletal, and smooth. So muscles are joined to bones. We said ligaments join bone to bone, right? What's the connective tissue that joins muscle to bone? Does anybody know? So these are tendons. Tendons join bone to muscle or muscle to bone. Without tendons, you couldn't move. All right. Your tendons are what help your muscles move, because your muscles have to work against something. They have to be anchored to something. They're anchored to your bone by your tendons. Okay. And if you see, there's a muscle called the palmus longus. Some people have and some people don't have. And it's one of those things that's an evolutionary thing. So if you take your thumb and your pinky and you put them together and you kind of like push real hard, is one way to do it. Kind of bend forward a little. Another way to do it is to kind of make a little fist like this and look. You'll see right here, this is a tendon that attaches to the palmus longus. Some people will have it, some people will not. And some people are really weird and they only have one. Look at me. I've got it on this hand. Do I have it on the other hand? I have it here, but over here I can see 2 tendons there, but over here there's only one. See? There you go. So some people are not going to have that at all. They don't have it. About 10 to 15% of the population doesn't have that little muscle and that little tendon, so you don't see it there. Skeletal muscles generate force and produce movement by pulling on body parts as they contract, mainly pulling on bones that they're attached to by tendons. Muscles work in pairs. One contracts and the other relaxes. So here's how you know. You have a flexor and an extensor, okay? So take your arm and put it at a right angle like this, 90 degrees. Right angle, like a square, right? Everybody knows a 90-degree right angle? All right. If you're going to decrease that angle, which means the little area from here to here, if you decrease the angle, that's your flexor that's doing the work. If you go back to here and then you stretch it out, you've increased the angle, that is your extensor at work. So they work in pairs. The flexor is contracting and the extensor is relaxing. And in this case, the flexor is relaxing and the extensor is contracting. So they always work in pairs like that. I'm going to skip this one for right now. This just shows how muscle filaments work. And we'll talk about it still a little bit more. All right, so what makes muscles grow? Some people have big muscles, right? Like weightlifters and athletes have really big muscles. What makes a muscle grow? Does anybody know? What actually makes it get bigger? All right, this is going to tell you what makes it get bigger. So if you want big muscles, this is what you have to do to get them.
We're all strong on this planet.
And part of it is genetics. Some people that are equally strong have muscles that are not as big as others. They can be equally strong, but not as big. I'm going to close that on here.
Muscles. We have over 600 of them. They make up between 1/3 and 1/2 of our body weight. And along with connective tissue, they bind us together, hold us up, and help us move. And whether or not bodybuilding is your hobby, muscles need your constant attention because the way you treat them on a daily basis determines whether they will wither or grow. Say you're standing in front of a door, ready to pull it open. Your brain and muscles are perfectly poised to help you achieve this goal. First, your brain sends a signal to motor neurons inside your arm. When they receive this message, they fire, causing muscles to contract and relax, which pull on the bones in your arm and generate the needed movement. The bigger the challenge becomes, the bigger the brain's signal grows, and the more motor units it rallies to help you achieve your task. But what if the door is made of solid iron? At this point, your arm muscles alone won't be able to generate enough tension to pull it open, so your brain appeals to other muscles for help. You plant your feet, tighten your belly, and tense your back, generating enough force to yank it open. Your nervous system has just leveraged the resources you already have, other muscles, to meet the demand. While all this is happening, your muscle fibers undergo another kind of cellular change. As you expose them to stress, they experience microscopic damage, which in this context is a good thing. In response, the injured cells release inflammatory molecules called cytokines that activate the immune system to repair the injury. This is when the muscle building magic happens. The greater the damage to the muscle tissue, the more your body will need to repair itself. The resulting cycle of damage and repair eventually makes muscles bigger and stronger as they adapt to progressively greater demands. Since our bodies have already adapted to most everyday activities, those generally don't produce enough stress to stimulate new muscle growth. So to build new muscle, a process called hypertrophy, our cells need to be exposed to higher workloads than they are used to. In fact, if you don't continuously expose your muscles to some resistance, they will shrink, a process known as muscular atrophy. In contrast, exposing the muscle to a high degree of tension, especially while the muscle is lengthening, also called an eccentric contraction, generates effective conditions for new growth. However, muscles rely on more than just activity to grow. Without proper nutrition, hormones, and rest, your body would never be able to repair damaged muscle fibers. Protein in our diet preserves muscle mass by providing the building blocks for new tissue in the form of amino acids. Adequate protein intake, along with naturally occurring hormones like insulin-like growth factor and testosterone, help shift the body into a state where tissue is repaired and grown. This vital repair process mainly occurs when we're resting, especially at night while sleeping. Gender and age affect this repair mechanism, which is why young men with more testosterone have a leg up in the muscle building game. Genetic factors also play a role in one's ability to grow muscle. Some people have more robust immune reactions to muscle damage and are better able to repair and replace damaged muscle fibers, increasing their muscle building potential. The body responds to the demands you place on it. If you tear your muscles up, eat right, rest, and repeat, you'll create the conditions to make your muscles as big and strong as possible. It is with muscles as it is with life. Meaningful growth requires challenge and stress.
So you have to damage your muscles for them to get bigger. But like they said, some of it's genetics. So I've seen, both of my boys have done gymnastics. So I've seen guys do strength skills that aren't really jacked guys. They're tight and they're fit and they have good muscles and they're ripped, but they're not like huge muscular guys. And they can still do the strength skills that maybe some of the guys with the bigger muscles can do. And that's just genetics. Like they're equally strong, but they look different. The results are different because some people they have a really fast immune response where their body's like, oh, your muscle's torn, I have to fix it. And when they do that again and again and again, those people get bigger and bigger muscles. All right, so let's talk about the integumentary system. So this is mostly your skin, which is like your largest organ, right? Okay, so your integumentary system is a barrier against infection and injury, helps to regulate your body temperature, it removes waste from your body, it gathers information from the outside environment, and it produces vitamin D. All of the above, right? Skin and its related structures, your hair, your nails, and several types of glands make up your integumentary system. What do you call the very outer layer of your skin that is composed of dead skin cells? It's on the very, very top. Does anybody know? So it's epidermis. So dermis means skin, epi means like outside or top, outermost. So epidermis, your outermost skin. What do you call that thick layer of tissue below the epidermis? So there's your epidermis. What do you call the one below it? So your thick layer there, it's your true skin. It has your blood, your capillaries, your nerve endings, sweat glands, hair follicles, sorry. That's your dermis. So you have an epidermis and then a dermis. Remember, we had the same thing on leaves. Do you remember we looked at leaves and plant tissues? You had an epidermis there as well. And then what is your deepest layer of skin? It's made up of fat, connective tissue. The majority of your body fat is stored there. That is going to be your subcutaneous layer. So underneath, right? This is this fatty layer underneath. You've got keratin, which is a tough fiber. It's a protein and it helps cause waterproofing. Keratin is in your hair and your nails. Lots of keratin in your hair and your nails. And then there's keratin in your skin, especially along, the keratin that's in the epidermis, the dead cells that are in your epidermis is very important at waterproofing. If you stick your hand in the swimming pool, you don't absorb the water, right? You're not like a sponge. You're somewhat waterproof, and that's because of the keratin. And then you have melanocytes, and these produce melanin, which is the pigment in your skin that determines your complexion from being very fair to very dark complected. That is because of melanocytes that produce that melanin pigment. What's the purpose of the darker pigment in skin, do you suppose? What advantage does it have to have a darker complexion? Think for a minute about the globe and where different people on the planet live. The people that live along the equator, do they have lighter skin generally or darker skin? People whose generations of their family have lived there, native people to that area. What do you think? Are they very fair-skinned people or are they darker-skinned people? They're darker, right? Okay. Now, how about people that live up near the poles, like Norway, Sweden, those kind of people? Is their skin lighter or darker? Lighter, okay. They get less sunlight up there, don't they? So they need the lighter skin to absorb as much of that sunlight as possible to get the vitamin D that they need to function. So people that live along the equator whose families evolved along the equator, they need to reflect a lot of that light. Well, they need to not burn so badly, right? So they have more melanin in their skin. They're less likely to burn than those of us like some of us are super pale, right? Like me, I'm super pale. All right, so dermis lies beneath the epidermis, contains protein collagen, blood vessels, nerve endings, glands, sensory receptors, hair follicles. This is what forms your fingerprints. Sebaceous glands secrete oily substance onto the skin. What happens when you get sebum, that's that oily substance, and dead skin cells, and it plugs up your hair follicles? Do you know what you get then? You get acne. Oh, that's fun. Everybody loves that, right? Everybody wants acne, zits, pimples. No, it's never fun. You can get hives. That's an allergic reaction to food or medicine. You get these big red welts that show up. They itch sometimes. You can get skin cancer from too much ultraviolet light. So this talks about why we need sunscreen. We're going to skip that. And this is how to not get pimples, and we'll skip that because you guys know where to watch those. But now we're going to, in a minute, we're getting to our game here with our buddy. All right, so it's time to take a look at him. So his name is Wilhelm. All right. Do we know why his name is Wilhelm? Anybody know? No? So he is named after this dude named Wilhelm Conrad Röntgen, and he was an experimental physicist who produced and detected electromagnetic radiation in a wavelength known as X-rays. Perfect name for a guy who's a skeleton, right? So in 1901, he became the first recipient of the Nobel Prize in Physics in recognition of extraordinary services that he has rendered by discovering remarkable rays subsequently named after him. The element Roentgenium is named in his honor. This is Wilhelm. And that is one of the first X-rays ever taken. That is his wife's hand, and you can clearly see her ring. Right? All right, so now, oh, wait a minute. So yeah. So it does say that after receiving his first Nobel Prize, significant controversy arose from other scientists, predominantly this guy, Philip Leonard, who claimed that he had already discovered this X-ray business, so Röntgen shouldn't be getting credit for it, but he did. And there's always controversy. So I usually would say 2 guinea pigs, but there's only 3 of you. So why don't you all come up? Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to call out the name of a bone, and you're going to touch it gently and see who can find it first. So all 3 of you, come up. We'll see what we can do here. All right, are we ready? Okay, your first one is going to be sternum. Anybody see a sternum? It's not labeled. You have to find it. Look at him. Where's his sternum? Anybody know? Anybody want to guess? Take a guess. 1, 2, 3, guess. Oh, y'all are awful. 1, 2, 3, guess. Pick something. Point to something. Anything. Okay, your sternum is right here. This is your sternum. Your breastbone is your sternum. All right, next one is going to be femur. Where's your femur? Good. Everybody's guessing. Close. Getting an idea. Yes, Evan. Okay, this is your femur. Largest bone in your body is your femur, your thigh bone. Clavicle. Anybody know where clavicle is? No, clavicle is your home. Right here. Clavicle. Got one on each side. Fibula. Ooh. Fibula. Nobody wants to guess? Fibula. Those little right here. Little dudes of fibula. All right. How about cervical spine? Oh, so it's going to be part of your spine. Now, which part of your spine? Going for that? Okay. You got 3 basic regions of your spine. So you're going to have your cervical spine, your thoracic spine, and your lumbar spine. So your cervical is up here. Cervical means neck, if that helps. All right, your humerus. Haha, it's so funny. Where's your humerus? There you go. Everybody got it. Everybody knows where that is. All right, good. It's your upper arm bone. Sacrum. We talked about it earlier. Do you remember where it is? Mm-hmm. This is your sacrum. This huge part back here of your spine. And that little guy at the bottom, you see this? That's your coccyx, your tailbone. All right, how about patella? I said that earlier. Anybody remember? Patella. Babies don't have one. Yes, your kneecap. Very good. Very good. All right, excellent. Metatarsals. There are metatarsals and there are metacarpals. So now we want metatarsals. So your metatarsals are these guys right here, not your toes, but the bones that are on the kind of like the top of your foot. Scapula. This one looks like a spatula. Some people use that. So it's your shoulder blade right here. That's your scapula. How about your thoracic spine? Do you remember? I showed you where it was. There you go. Very good. How about your metacarpals? If those were your metatarpals, metatarsals, where do you think your metacarpals are? Well, that's a good guess. So they're going to be, yes, they're these guys right here. All these. These are your metacarpals. All right. How about your tibia? Anybody want to guess where your tibia is? So your tibia is next to your fibula. Does that help? Where was your fibula? Fibula is the little one. Your tibia is this one. It's your shin bone. Yep, very good. All right, how about your ulna? No, we don't know where our ulna is. All right, so your ulna is your bigger of your arm bones. It's this one right here. All right. How about your phalanges? Well, that's fun. You have lots of these. I'll give you a hint. You have 20 sets of phalanges. Oh. They're your fingers and toes. Yeah, your fingers and toes are your phalanges. Okay, radius. Your radius goes with your ulna. Where was your ulna? So here's your ulna. Here's your radius. Here's how you tell. Okay, so if you hold your hand out like this, and you rotate your hand, which bone is moving? Is it this one or is it this one? Which bone's doing moving? This one near your thumb is really moving, right? That's your radius because it is moving in like think about a radius of a circle. It's the one that's doing that moving, right? All right, ilium. This one's a little harder. This is your ilium back here. It's like your pelvic girdle is your ilium. And there you go. And that's it. We got them all. Good job, gang. All right, you guys, if you want to come on in,